The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has issued a decision that seems to say that they don't really care about prior art and the validity of patents in certain instances. More specifically, and to be a little bit less, hyperbolic here or inflammatory here, effectively what they have said earlier this year on, what was day? I looked at it and I already forgot. On June 26th of 2025, they issued a decision on a interparts review between Intel and Proxence LLC. Intel challenged the validity of a Proxence LLC patent using the interparts review system, which the interparts review system specifically relates to prior art or obviousness. Chapter 35 USC subsection 102 and subsection 103. Subsection 102 is about novelty, aka prior art. Has this already existed? Is this something that already exists in the world that they decided to patent because there wasn't already a patent for it? And subsection 103, obviousness. Is this someone that has a average level of experience in that specific field, would easily be able to create on their own, and thus is not patentable? And that is what Intel used to challenge Proxence LLC. And the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office, specifically the acting director, Coke Morgan Stewart, I believe, helped with the decision, issued the guidance that despite those two things, despite the possible existence of prior art or obviousness, that they would not grant the IPR based on what they referred to as settled expectations. What they said effectively is that because Proxence owned this patent for 9 years before it was challenged, they have settled expectations that they own it and they can operate with this patent. And because of that, they can get away with doing it however they want. They can get away with it, even if it is a patent that should be devalidated based on prior art and based on obviousness. They had it for 9 years. They get to keep it, and that is insane. That is a wild thing to me. Now, I can kind of understand like logic that could lead to that, because like in things like contract law, and I'm not a contract lawyer and I'm not a business major, but I'm at least somewhat aware of this. In things like contract law, there is a concept where if you have a written contract and it says this must be done or this must not be done, but then that thing that is not supposed to be done is done consistently and frequently over the course of many years, and both parties are aware that that thing is being done and both parties are kind of okay that that thing is being done, it is a legal defense to say, well, they never challenged me on this, so we've established a pattern that despite the fact that this is in the contract not to do this, that this is okay. And you can use that to challenge contract law. But this is different. This is a different thing. This isn't a situation where when a patent is filed, every single person who has some stake in that patent or some stake in that field is sent an email that this doesn't happen, is sent an email that says, oh, this patent has been filed. Do you want to challenge it? This is a situation where you have to be aware that something went wrong. You have to be aware that become aware that this patent has been filed before you can challenge it. You just might not know. You might not know that that patent's been filed. It might not have crossed your eyes. Even doing like your regular amount of due diligence, it might not cross your eyes. In a contract, and I'm not saying that that's the basis that they're using, but that's kind of like where my mind went of what they might be trying to say. And I'm not saying that is the basis they're using. That's just I'm just opining. What they've effectively said now is if you're not keeping a constant eye on everything that is being filed at the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and something slips past and no one challenges it for a long enough period of time, right now 9 years at the very least, maybe less if they decide to rule on that, then the fraudulent patent can be kept in order to allow the settled expectations to be met, in order to allow this company to keep operating with the shady action they did. It can also be kind of correlated to the concept of statute of limitations, I guess, because there's, at least in U.S. law, and I think in a lot of other countries, there is the concept of the statute of limitations, that if you commit a crime, depending on the crime, if enough time goes by without you being indicted for the crime, they can't later indict you for it. But that is also, and maybe it's falling on that guideline of, oh yeah, well, because imagine I stole $1 million from someone and no one knew that I did it, and 5 years later or 10 years later, whatever the statute of limitation is, someone found out that I did it, and then they're like, okay, well, you just get to keep the money, I guess. No, that's crazy. That's crazy. I wouldn't be indicted for it. I wouldn't be sent to jail for it, but I'm pretty sure they would be able to come after me for the money at the very least. And if not, that's a failure of our legal system, I think. You should not be able to profit off of crime. Like, that should never be a thing, and that's effectively what's happening when these fraudulent patents are being filed and accepted, is they are profiting off of doing something illegal. And that is ridiculous. So what this is doing is creating a situation where you just have to be constantly on top of it, because if you let one slide, they're going to get to keep it. And it also, I'm going to get a little bit of conspiratorial here, because I've been following a lot of the Nintendo patent stuff, and occasionally I go on the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office and I look up for patents that are applied for by Nintendo or that Nintendo recently got assigned. And I say, is this anything interesting? Is anything I want to talk about? And I see a lot applying for a lot of patents, like just so constantly. And for stuff that's like one of the recent patents I talked about them getting is for a console mount, is for a thing that you mount your console on that just looks like a tablet stand. And they filed a patent for that. They filed a design patent for that. And just all these ridiculous patents. The patents they just filed for like the arcade light gun system, and just a bunch of more ridiculous stuff. So now I'm kind of getting conspiratorial here, and this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm thinking they might be doing. I'm not saying this is what they're doing. I'm not saying I have any actual evidence that this is what they're doing. But what if they are filing all these patents, hoping that no one will be bothered to challenge them? No one will want to deal with the legal weight of challenging them, because it's going to be a case, it's going to be litigation. No one wants to deal with the legal weight of challenging them, or no one wants to bother challenging them, because why? What do they gain from this? This is something silly, or this is something stupid, or they don't have the money to do it. And that it will hold for long enough, that they will have that patent for long enough, despite the fact that it appears to be fraudulent, that to me at the very least, and to a lot of people, appears to be fraudulent. It is a allegedly fraudulent patent. That when someone finally does, when someone with the money, with the power, with the resources, and with the incentive to challenge them finally does, the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office will just say, oh, well, they've had it for so long that it'd be really mean to take it away from them. They would be really upset if we took it away from them. It's kind of their favorite toy, and lets them keep it. And that way they can get a lot of these BS patents that they can eventually use to go after people that don't deserve it because they're a shady company. So that's my little conspiracy theory on that. And just to mention real quick, the Intel went after them using the concept of the inner parts review, which is something I talk about in my most recent video that I posted as a way that we can go after Nintendo for some of their fraudulent patents, but we have to get to it quick within a certain time frame, after a certain time frame, but within a certain time frame, to stop them from pulling this BS. So if you want to hear more about that, check out the video over there. Check out that video, because I talk about it there. If you want to, it'd be really awesome. It'd really help me out if you leave a like and a comment and possibly a hype on this video. Every bit of engagement helps the video do better. If you want to sign up for memberships, the information about memberships is under there. Every dollar for the memberships goes straight to my editor so that I can afford to pay him more and eventually hire him on full time, which will allow me to put more effort and more work into these things and work on side projects and blah, blah, blah. And if you are interested, another thing personally that would incredibly help me out, I'd very much appreciate it. I have a storytelling channel where I tell stories. Right now I'm reposting a lot of old ones, tell stories about, you know, my life, my time in the military, et cetera, all this different stuff. I'm hoping to get that channel taking off, but I'm going to need your help. It's hard for new channels to start. So if you can click on the playlist over there, there's about 4 videos. There's about an hour's worth of content over there. If you can watch through all of those over time, over like this week or over the next few days or whatever, leave a like and a comment on all of them. That would be amazing. It would really help. But in the meantime, fuck Nintendo.